Hello friends, welcome back. Today I'm going to be taking you through some very useful tips on how to draw realistic eyes with colored pencils. If you are new here, my name is Kojo and I make realistic artworks with colored pencils. So if it's something you're interested in, don't forget to subscribe for more tips and tutorials in future. As always, we need to start with an accurate sketch, and I like to use the grid method. I've got an entire video on how to get an accurate sketch or outline all the time, so I suggest you watch that after this. Always try to lighten your outline with the needed eraser. We want the outline to be as faint as possible so it doesn't show through in the final drawing, because that will take away from the realistic look we are trying to achieve. I always start with the pupil, which is almost always black, and the process is quite easy and straightforward. Use the black colored pencil to fill in the outline of the pupil. Now take note of the highlights that may appear in the pupil. In this case, the subject had a highlight in the upper part of the pupil, a very small portion of it, so I made sure to leave that portion white. I used the Prismacolor Premier pencils for this drawing. The iris surrounds the pupil, and unlike the pupil, it may take on a variety of colors, so pay attention to the reference in order to select the appropriate color or colors for the iris. One more thing is to work in layers when it comes to the iris. In this subject, the iris had a lot of beige and grey areas. So I started off by layering beige, using it as my base layer, and after I layered the grey on top, all while studying the reference in order to move in the appropriate direction in terms of my pencil strokes. The white of the eye is never really white. It usually has a shade of grey to it, especially in the corners. The eye is essentially a form of sphere. That means some parts are going to be drawn away from light depending on the direction of the light source, and these parts are going to appear slightly darker. In addition, the eyelids also cast some form of shadow on the eyeball, all of which add to the greyish appearance of the eyeball. In this case, I used the warm grey 20% to shade the eyeballs. So the eyelids are essentially skin, so we use the principle of layering and blending. Always start with the base layer, which is the lightest color you can spot in the area you are shading. In this case, it was a light beige. After the base layer, shade the darker colors on top progressively till you get to the darkest color. During layering, move in circular patterns to avoid having any obvious start and stop areas. The colors that tend to appear often when drawing skin are the peaches, browns, pinks and beige, so study the reference closely and layer accordingly. Darker skin tones will often have a lot of browns in comparison to lighter skin tones, which usually have a lot of pinkish areas. For this drawing, I layered over the light beige using peach and pink for those areas that appeared pinkish, and for those areas that were yellowish in color, I used beige or ginger root. You don't need to use these exact colors, of course, that will depend on the subject you are drawing. So after layering, we need to blend. Blending is the process of merging your layers together in order to create a smooth transition between your layers. The color you use for the blending should be a color that is similar to those that were used in the layering process. In instances where you can't decide, use the color you used for the base layer to blend. For this piece, I blended using the light peach color. During blending, apply enough pressure on the pencil to merge the layers while maintaining the circular motions we spoke about earlier. The eyelashes are usually darker at their point of attachment to the skin, and as they emerge, they tend to take on a lighter tone. To create this effect, hold the pencil a little more firmly at the start and then loosen up a bit as you draw the strokes. For this drawing, I used the black colored pencil. Avoid the temptation to draw them uniformly. They don't move uniformly in the same direction. To have a realistic looking drawing, you need to pay attention to these little bits of inconsistencies. The mistake most people make with their eyebrows is going in directly with their pencils and start shading them in without shading the skin underneath the brows. For most people, the skin underneath the brows is visible. Therefore, you need to layer and blend just like you did for the eyelids or with any other part of the skin before going in to shade the brows over. This will make the drawing look a lot more realistic. The colors used here for the brows are light amber, dark brown and a bit of black. The type of paper you use for your drawing is crucial. Because we tend to do a lot of layering throughout the process, you need to select a paper that is capable of accepting a reasonable amount of layers. I like to use the Strathmore Bristol Vellum papers, more specifically the 300 and 500 series. If you are interested in an organized step-by-step process of realistic portrait drawing with colored pencils, be sure to check out my ebook titled Mastering Realistic Portraits with Colored Pencils, which also contains exclusive video links where you can watch as I go through the process in detail. It teaches you everything you need to know about realistic portrait drawing with colored pencils, including the basics, how to select colors, and more. It also includes practice exercises to help you improve even faster, and features 2 portrait drawings from start to finish. The link will be in the description. Don't forget to subscribe for more tips and tutorials, and I'll see you in the next one.